Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here, and I am back on some Anthem. Now recently they came out with an update for this game, and there's been a lot of good changes with this update. I really do enjoy the update. There's a couple bad things, there's always bad things whenever they update the game. I will point out a couple of the bad things, but for the most part, I will say that the good has outweighed the bad, that is for sure. But one of the things they have done is given out some buffs. And one of the buffs that they gave out that's a really good buff is for the Storm. I'm going to be showing you guys the Lightning Storm build, which is now way more powerful than it used to be. It was always a powerful build, but now it's kind of crazy. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and get started with the build. The first thing I want to talk about is what they buffed, which is the Ponder Infinity. Now for this, what this is going to do is while hovering, this is going to up your electrical damage by 165%. This used to only be 65%, so that's a 100% increase, and that will really make this build a lot more powerful. That's pretty much like getting the Elemental Rage buff, which you can use that weapon with this build, and that will up your damage. I'm not a big fan of the Elemental Rage though for a couple reasons. The first reason is you have to shoot elite enemies. If you're doing a stronghold, there's plenty of elite enemies, but outside of a stronghold, a lot of times elites can be a little bit rarer, so you might not always be able to get the buff, which is a bummer. And on top of that, it only lasts for 10 seconds. I wish it would last for 20 seconds because it kind of feels like a chore to constantly keep shooting enemies to get that buff. I'm really just not a big fan of the weapon, but that is an option. You can use that to up your damage. I will try to show the Elemental Rage with this build because it does give you a damage buff, but we'll see how that goes. Now for the Ponder Infinity, what you really want for the inscriptions, if you can get it, is general damage. That's always good. Elemental damage, if you can get that, that's great. This entire build is elemental, so that's always good. And also, gear charges. Gear charges is absolutely what you want the most. The more the better. This is going to be our detonating power, so we definitely want to have gear charges if we can get it. Gear damage is nice, but you don't really need it, to be quite honest, because your main source of damage is going to come from a component, and that's the other thing you really want for this build, which is going to be the Mark of Wrath. What this is going to do is increase your gear damage by 50%. It's going to lower your gear recharge speed by -20, which really isn't a big deal, I'll be honest. The reason why is because we have another component for that, but whenever you detonate a combo, you're going to create a large electrical explosion. That explosion does crazy damage. With this current setup, I can get that to hit for 150,000 damage. With the Elemental Rage, I can get that to hit for 188,000 damage. It's kind of nuts. On GM3, the elite normal minion type enemies will have about 200,000 health. So with this alone, plus the combo, plus the gear damage I'm going to get from just hitting them, they will die. So you can one combo elite minions on GM3 with this. That is nuts. Now for the focus seal, you have the option to use really whatever you want, but you do want a primer here. And since this is a lightning build, I definitely would recommend the Seal of the Open Mind. I have a lot of these. The game really wanted me to get this a lot. I really hated this power for the longest time because I just don't like it. But now I'm actually liking it because I understand it better. I know how to aim it a lot better because you do have to aim this. If you know how to aim it, it's actually pretty good. But the main thing here is that this is going to prime them for lightning. If you can prime them for lightning, the lightning is going to do a lot of damage whenever it sparks and it hits the other enemies. In fact, it will hit them for like 20,000 or at least close to 20,000 every second. And you are talking about just taking out mobs just from that lightning effect alone. And if you detonate a combo, you'll spread the lightning, which is just nuts. So this is just amazing for taking out mobs. Now for this, if you can get gear charges, that's nice. General damage is nice. I have gear recharge speed on this, so that's not bad, I guess. Gear damage isn't really all that important. I have one that has 375% gear damage, but when I use this, this only ups the damage of this ability by 20,000, which is okay, but on GM3, that's really not a big deal. Plus, it doesn't really take away the fact that I can still one-shot enemies with my combos. So I just prefer to have the gear recharge speed and just the general damage overall. But this is nice, and sometimes I use this every once in a while. Now for the weapons, what I'm using is the Thunderbolt. This weapon is amazing with this setup. This does crazy damage because it has a lightning effect. The actual weapon damage really doesn't matter because it's just the effect that's going to be doing a lot of damage. But one thing I want to point out, because this is something with the update that I noticed right away, look at the damage of my weapon. It's at 36. This is something that has happened with the components and also the weapons. Pretty much what they've done is that whenever you look at it, it's just a visual glitch. It's not actually affecting the game in any real way. Don't worry about it. But whenever you look at it, it's pretty much telling you that this weapon is like a power level 1. That's why it's at 36. So I think they need to fix that because that is annoying. But like I said, it's just a visual glitch, so don't worry about it. I have armor on this, which I'm really happy about. I like armor for my storm. You don't really need shields with this setup, and you're going to see why once we get to the gameplay and stuff. But not having shields is actually a good idea. I think having armor is much better. I also have a little bit of general damage on this, so that's good. Now my other weapon is a Wyvern's Bliss. This also got a big buff. It used to only be 40% while hovering, can increase weak point damage, but now it's 185%. But here's the deal, weapons need to scale with your power level. They need to do more damage depending on your power level, because guess what? This weapon still sucks. It's awful. I can hit for like 35,000 a headshot with this, and I even have weak point damage on it. Now maybe if I had like some crazy weapon damage on this, I can get it to hit for a little bit more, but still, even with that, it really isn't good for GM3. And I would say it's probably not even good for GM2. So that is just really pathetic and sad. Now the reason I'm using this weapon is because it has 90% armor, 40% luck, and 20% elemental damage. So I really do like the inscriptions on this. It's just the weapon itself is just trash. It's completely garbage. Now the support gear I'm using a wind wall. I never use this, but it has armor on it, it has luck on it, and that's always good. They really need to hurry up and come out with the Masterwork support gear because that will up our power level, and maybe the support gear will be actually pretty good at that point. Now for the components, I already talked about the Marker Raft. This is the most important thing. But also, another really good one is the Token of Daring. Now this is why you don't need shields, and I just think that armor is better. First of all, this is going to give us elemental damage, which is good for the storm. Almost everything will be buffed by elemental damage. But whenever your shield breaks, it will instantly recharge all of your gear, including all your charges. So if you have multiple charges of the Ponder Infinity, the Seal of the Open Mind, you'll get them all back. That is amazing. You can just spam your powers like crazy. Now you might say, well, wait a minute. If my shields are really low, I'm just going to die a lot. That ain't gonna happen if you use the Vanguard's token and Soften Blows. I already showed this before, but this is an Invincible Storm build. So if you are actually using these things together, you get over 100% damage resistance whenever you lose your shield, and you literally take no damage. Now my Soften Blows actually has a really good lineup of inscriptions on it. 29% damage, 15% elemental damage. That is really, really nice. Next up is the Tome of Precision. This used to be a sniper rifle component, but they changed it. That's why it has a weird name. But this is going to up lightning damage. I wish it was higher than 5%. I always think that 5% is a joke. It should be at least 15%. But the effect on this is actually really good. Defeating an enemy will increase elemental damage by 40% for 10 seconds. So as long as you can keep killing enemies, you're going to have this going pretty much non-stop. So that is really, really good. And finally, I have the Token of the Master on. Now, blast damage is nice because anything with AoE on it will benefit from blast damage. So the Ponder Infinity will, also your ultimate will, and the main thing is going to be the effect from the Mark of the Raft component. Whenever you get a combo and that triggers, it's going to up that damage. Now, I've done a lot of testing with this build, and I can tell you that the 35% blast damage will up that damage by 10,000. So without this, it will hit for 140,000, and with this, it will hit for 150,000. So the question is that really worth it? Now, in my personal opinion, I don't really think it is, because if I'm playing Grandmaster 3 and I'm hitting the enemies for 140,000 damage whenever I get a combo, plus I'm getting the combo damage, plus I'm getting damage from my gear, I'm still going to kill elite minion enemies with one combo regardless. So I don't really need that 10,000 extra, and because of that, I actually probably am going to stop using this. I'm going to use it for the video just to show you the damage, because that's what this is all about. But also the effect on it is not bad. Whenever you hit something with R1, you increase L1. So that's good. But once again, I just don't think it really matters all that much, because I'm still going to be able to take out the enemies with one combo regardless. Now, I think the better option is to actually use Mark of Clarity, because this is going to help you with your tankiness. This is an almost unkillable build. The only time you're really going to die with this build is when you get lazy and you're about to die and you're so used to never dying that you're just going to stand there and take it. If that happens, you might die, but most of the time you're going to survive and you'll be fine. Now, one of the things that can kill you though is elemental attacks. You are weak to them. With this though, you are not. You get the elemental damage resistance, plus whenever you're hit with an elemental attack, you take no damage from it, and then it heals you. That is crazy. And the inscription I have on this is actually a minus to effect duration, meaning that I can clear the status effect faster and get my armor back quicker. I mean, this is an amazing thing for the tank build. So the question is, do you want more damage because of the blast, or do you want to have more defense? And personally, I prefer the defense, because in the end, I'm still going to one-shot most enemies with my combo regardless. Alrighty guys, let's go ahead and get into the gameplay now. I'm going to show you how this works, but the main thing is that this lightning damage is insane. Primarily from the Mark of the Wrath component, but also from the Thunderbolt weapon, but also anytime I prime enemies with lightning, or if I get a chain combo and I spread the lightning, that lightning is going to do crazy damage over time to all the enemies in the mob, and it will absolutely melt them. Alrighty guys, well I'm trying to die right now and it's almost impossible because my storm is invincible. So this is kind of a good preview of how the Invincible Storm build works. This is Grandmaster 3, I'm in free play, I'm in a cave, all the enemies in here are elite, and yeah, they can't kill me. It's like almost impossible for them to kill me. I want to say it's pretty much impossible for them. Let's see if they can get me, but I've been standing here literally for like 5 minutes. And they cannot kill me, so it's kind of crazy. Now, one thing I want to mention is my consumables. I have 2 lightning sigils on, the epic and the rare, so that's 50% more lightning damage. And I also have the shield sigil on. That's for the tank build, because you want your shield to come back as quick as possible. And with the shield sigil, you actually do get shield regeneration. Another really good thing is to get shield refresh on your components. If you can get that, that's also going to help with the tank build. Now, one of the big problems with this, I'm having a really hard time, is that whenever I'm trying to show the damage that you can get from the Mark of Wrath component, I keep actually having the combo text come up and it's blocking the number. So it's really kind of hard to show that number. So you have to trust me on this. It's 150,000 damage with my current setup. And with the Elemental Rage, it's actually 188,000. So the Elemental Rage is actually only buffing it by 38,000 damage. Now, of course, it's also buffing all my other damage, which is nice. But I just don't like the Elemental Rage. Like I said, it's kind of a chore. So that's kind of a problem. Okay, please, don't remove me from the server. I'm moving, okay? I'm here. I'm just trying to die. Sorry, game, that you can't kill me. And another thing I do want to mention is actually armored enemies. That is kind of a weakness to this build, is that armored guys will take less damage from lightning than red bar guys. So you will absolutely destroy red bars, but you might struggle a little bit against armor. Now, normally what I like to do is I kind of rely on my teammates to help me a lot whenever I'm using this build and there's armored targets. But besides that, you do have some options. You can use the Divine Vengeance. That is something that can help you take out armored enemies. You can also use the Rowlier's Blaze to set up fire combos. And you can always use your ultimate. That's something I do a lot against armored enemies. Just use my ultimate to take them out quickly. And then the final thing that I normally do is just kind of sit back with the Thunderbolt and I just shoot them. And like I said, I let my allies help me take them out. And normally I can do some good damage with the Thunderbolt. It does like maybe 80 to 90,000 damage against armor, which isn't nearly as much as what I can do against red bars, but it still is really good. Alrighty, well now I'm going to try to die here because if I die, I can reset this area and I can try to show this properly, but I wanted to just kind of point all those things out and also show off the Invincible Storm because, yeah, I mean, this is freaking crazy, man. Alrighty, well, I finally died and I was able to get more guys to shoot me, and I had so many shooting me that I eventually went down. But that's a really good example of how the Invincible Storm works. I'm telling you guys, you really always want to have that set up, no matter what your build is, because it's just too freaking good. Alright, now let's try to actually do this. I'm going to hit this guy with that. Let's see if we can see the number, but the combo is going to block it. But these guys do have 200,000 health. You have to trust me on that. And with this, you can see that it's absolutely one-shotting them with the combo. So it's doing a lot of damage to them. Hopefully, maybe we can actually get this number to properly pop up. One of the nice things is every time I lose my shield, I'm getting my gear to recharge. So remember that. That's a really cool thing. Right there, you could kind of see it. You could see the 150. It's kind of hard. You have to maybe squint your eyes. Right there, you can see it as well. You can see the number, guys. Awesome. I'm not going to switch to the Elemental Ray to show that. Let's go ahead and use the Thunderbolt. 210,000 damage against the shield. 126,000 against the health. That can be higher. That can go up to 138,000. And that is if I have the buff of the Tome of Precision. 140,000, my bad. Oops, said the wrong number. And the game kicked me. Fantastic. Alrighty guys, well I am back, and I do want to talk about what just happened there. It did kick me out, but that is an unintended consequence of the patch. This is a free play problem, and only a free play problem that I can tell. But what will happen is sometimes when you go into free play now, you will actually join a session that's about to expire, and you might be playing for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, and then it will just randomly kick you and say that the session has ended. Now, before the patch, I've never had that happen. But I have joined sessions that it will tell me, oh, you have 2 hours left or an hour left. But now it's like sometimes 5 minutes and I get kicked out. And that's really a bummer because I might waste my consumables. I don't get the end screen to break down my loot. It's really dumb and they need to fix that. One thing I also want to show you guys if you are not playing the game is now at any point you can go into your forge. This is so nice. It should have been there from day one. You can change your weapons. You can change your components. I went ahead and put the Mark Clarity on to get the elemental resistance, and I can now heal from these storm enemies, so that's really cool. But let's go and wipe these guys out now, because why not? I'm going to finish this up. And also, it would be nice to actually be able to show you guys like mobs of enemies, because that's a big, big deal. Okay, that's strange. Is my consumables not working? Oh, I see the problem. So check that out. That is something that can happen. You got to be careful about that. And that is sometimes your Ponder Infinity buff will not actually be there. So you definitely want to try to make sure it's there. So if you're doing less damage with like a build like this, that's because you have lost the buff for some reason. Now, one of the things I really want to show here is like mobs of enemies. So I want to find like a spawn and hit the entire spawn. That would be nice. So soon here, there should be a spawn that will happen. And I can rush it and start to shock them all. Okay. I think a spawn did happen over this way. I just don't see it on the map. Where is the spawn? I gotta watch out for this storm. I don't want to get absolutely destroyed by it. Let me go ahead and take that shield down real quick. Look at that damage. Oh my god. That is crazy. Alright, let's take you out. I do not want to get hit by elemental attacks, although I have the resistance. Now I'm going to prime these guys so that they will shock each other like crazy. And anytime I lose my shield, I get my powers back. It's so, so nice. Now this is, of course, a lot better in a group. Because in a group, other people are going to be priming targets and you can jack their stuff and do the lightning explosion every time you get a combo. I don't mind it if people steal my combos. I never care about that. That's completely fine. And in fact, I think that's a main thing with the Storm. Like, if no matter what your build is, I think the Storm has a purpose. And one of the good things you can always do is just prime targets like crazy. And if an Interceptor or a Ranger or Colossus will steal it, who cares? You're still actually, helping out and doing your role. Let's go ahead and take this Lancer guy out. Check out the lightning there. That was almost 1.1 million. With the blast damage component, that would have been a little bit higher damage, but I took it off. Now we have to watch out for armored enemies because they're going to take less damage, but it shouldn't really matter much because we can still take them out pretty quickly. Let me show you this real quick. So that does okay damage against him, but normally I just kind of back off and do that against them, and that takes them out really quickly. And of course, like I said, if you want to use the Divine Vengeance as a secondary weapon, you can. That will help you. Same way if you want to use something like the Rallier's Blaze to set up fire combos, you can do that. Oh, there's a Storm here. Yay, fire shield. You gotta watch out for the lightning shields because they don't take any damage if they have the lightning shield on. Let's go ahead and take this thing out real quick. Come on, get zapped. There you go. Nice. You have a frost shield, so this should kill it. Yeah, it did. Alright, let's go ahead and take him out now. This is the last enemy, and then we'll be done. Alright, there you go. And yeah, man, this build is so good. It is definitely a really, really good Storm build. There's no doubt about it. I do think that the Storm is probably the most underpowered in the game right now, but I think that because of the other builds. This build is strong, but the other builds, like the combo damage with the Storm, is just really weak when you compare it to the other Javelins. I think that the Storm can definitely benefit from some buffs, and I really hope that they will do something with the Storm to make it stronger, because right now, I just think that it is probably the weakest Javelin out of all of them. But I do like being invincible. I do like zapping all the enemies. It's a lot of fun, guys. Alrighty, well that's going to do it for the build and also the gameplay. I do hope that you have enjoyed this and that it has helped. If it has, will you please like the video for me? Be sure to subscribe for future Anthem videos, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.